Hey Buffalo, welcome back to the Kiosk Presents. You know, as we get into the thick of summer with school out and the colleges out, maybe some teachers away, and for everybody, it's a little special extra time. It's a great time to start focusing on some summer reading. And today we've got an author with us to talk a little bit about it. She's a USA Today best-selling author of the Breathing series, Rebecca Donovan. Welcome to the Kiosk Presents.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you. You know, I know your first book, Reason to Breathe, and the second book in this trilogy, Barely Breathing, have been incredibly popular, generated over 47,000 reader reviews, and now Out of Breath, the third book in the series, is coming out, is out now, and I'm really excited to hear more about it. But first, let me ask you about sort of a new genre that you're kind of pioneering, I guess. You know, the romance novels have been around for a long time. Our younger readers are really getting hooked on books like Hunger Games and Twilight, but you're sort of bridging the gap with a new genre called New Adult. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, so New Adult bridges the gap between, as you said, the young adult world and the adult readership. It's more mature content than young adult content would be. It's edgier, it's more emotionally intense, but it's also the demographic of 16 to 25-year-old readership. I mean, not to say that they don't have people in their 30s and 40s reading as well, but it's really geared to formative years in a person's life that you're able to be more explicit in what the content is that you wouldn't feel comfortable with a young teenager that is the young adult category reading.
So what would you say, you know, maybe the average age of a young person really kind of moving beyond some of the younger and into this may be?
So I would start, I say my books are definitely 16 plus because they deal with child abuse and they're graphic in content and they're emotionally intense. So I wouldn't feel comfortable anyone younger being ready for that.
Right.
But consider it like a rating system as the movies have. So it allows the parents and teachers to know that this is going to be more mature, and so they can decide on where their child or student is in their level of reading and maturity in life to see if they're ready for that emotional commitment.
Right. Well, you know, I mentioned before you've had so many reader reviews, and I've seen a few of the ones that were done on YouTube, and the people who have reviewed this book are so passionate about Emma Thomas. Tell us a little bit about her story, because I know that you've, you know, crafted a character that really, you know, starts out in a really challenging spot and then really starts to recognize herself thanks to her friends and a young man.
Yeah. So as the series starts, Emma is 16, junior year in high school, and she is left with her aunt and uncle after her father dies, and her mother turns to alcohol and is unable to care for her anymore. But it's not a welcome home to be in. Her aunt abuses her, and she has to hide what happens behind closed doors from her other students and teachers. So it's about holding secrets. It's about her struggles with the traumas that she goes through, both physically and emotionally. And yes, it is the friendships and it is the relationships that help her see the other side of this, that give her hope, which is the underlying topic of the whole series.
Really, that's fantastic. So now what can the readers who have you know, really devoured those first two books, what can they expect, without giving too much away, of course, in the new book, Out of Breath, that's out now?
Well, what it is the first two books, there's an external force that Emma has to reckon with, whether it's her aunt in the first and her alcoholic mother in the second. And now she's alone in the third, and it's really about her internal demons and how she has to come to terms with the deconstruction of herself through that abuse and to either succumb to the demons or fight them. So it's an internal struggle. So it's very emotional. And as you said, my readers are very passionate. They're very invested in these characters. And they talk to me as if they're real. And to me, when I write them, they are. So it's a really a powerful story.
Sure. Well, you know, I'm holding a copy of your first book of the series, and you know, the good old traditional printed edition. But there are so many ways that people can read now that maybe they never had a chance to before. The reading devices, or heck, you can even read a book on your cell phone these days. And of course, audiobooks. I know at least your first edition's already out as audio. Do you feel there's a good way for a person to read, or is it sort of each to their own?
There's some people that still love to have the paper in their hands and to have that concrete book but the technological world is advancing, and people are, it's easy to carry with you, whether it's a tablet or your phone or even on your laptop. It's just a great resource to have. You can put hundreds of books in one place, that you don't have to have a huge bookshelf, and it makes reading much more accessible. It allows you to delve into genres that you may typically not have gone into, because the pricing is more comparable to being able to have that large of a library.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Buffalo, I would highly encourage you, get out there, look for this book. If you've already read the first two, this one's Out of Breath. It's out there now. If you haven't read any of the books yet, the Breathing series, look it up online, get the book, go to a bookstore and pick it up. Rebecca Donovan, thank you so much for joining us today on the Kiosk Presents.
Thank you for having me.